Alright guys, so today we're going to be checking out the Queen of Audio's Barbados Sunrise IEMs. Now if you're like me, just hearing the name Barbados Sunrise immediately made me think that just sounds like a mixed drink. So the first thing that I did was I went onto Google and just typed in Barbados Sunrise in the search engine, and of course it actually is a mixed drink, and actually a very pretty one. So I thought maybe the IEMs would have the same color scheme. I started to wonder why they would name these Barbados Sunrise, and actually on the website it kind of describes why they name it that, and why it affects the tuning, and why it affects the color, which we'll talk about all of that. But this pair comes in at $89, and this is an IEM that's using dual drivers. It has a 10mm titanium plated dynamic driver that's mixed with a custom balanced armature driver. So right there you know that they're trying to separate the low end from the mids and the highs to kind of give you a strong bass, but also still bring in the clarity. And we'll talk about this once we get into the sound. Now this pair of IEMs has a resin shell. It is actually available in two different colors. The colors they're calling a Sunrise, and then the other one is called Fantasy Purple. Basically it's made to emulate the Sunrise in Barbados. So the color scheme of these actually matches the title. Now these do come with a cable that has the 2-pin connectors. On the other end it has a straight 3.5mm plug. The cable itself is an alloy copper that is silver plated. It is a braided cable that looks black, so it has a nice dark finish to it. So from a look and a design standpoint, I'm a huge fan, and in fact it's made to kind of form into your ears like other IEMs. And I found these to be very comfortable. Even the cable that goes around your ears, it's plenty soft but has a lot of flexibility, so it's not stiff and one of those that's going to rub your ears and aggravate you while using them. Now as far as anything else they've included inside the box, it actually comes with two different styles of ear tips, and you get 3 sets in each style. It comes with silicone ear tips, but it also comes with rubber ear tips as well. And depending on which ear tips you use, it is going to affect the audio quality. My personal preference is actually silicone tips. The softer ear tips, in my opinion, just give me a little bit more out of the bass. Now, as far as anything else in the box, it does come with a pretty nice zippered hard case. This zippered hard case is fairly large, but this is kind of the norm when it comes to other IEMs. This allows you to keep all of those ear tips with you. It allows you to keep the cable, which obviously you would need. So there's plenty of room in there, but the case is a little bit large. Now, the impedance level on these comes in at 23 ohms. I did notice that these were very easy to drive. So if you're not going to use an amp, which I still recommend using an amp, just that way you're getting the most out of your IEMs. There's still going to be plenty of volume if you just plug them straight into a phone or your laptop, but to really get the most out of it from a sound standpoint, I recommend using an amp. Now all I'm using is just an ARC MK2 amp, which isn't anything extremely powerful, but it makes a world of difference than just plugging it into my desktop or to my laptop. So now let's just go ahead and jump right into the sound. And like I said earlier, it actually describes that they tried to tune these to match the feel of a Sunrise in Barbados, which they said is warm. It's a lot more laid back. And I can say for the most part, they kind of hit the nail on the head here. But I'm going to also say that I don't think the sound of these is going to be for everybody, because I feel like the bass itself was actually interesting. I felt like it picked up sub bass very well, but it doesn't have a whole lot of impact. It kind of lacks that punch that I like, especially with pairs like the Eco OH1s and the OH10s. Now the mids is where I think they tend to fall a little bit flat, and really that only depends on what genres you listen to, because I think for classical and easy listening and country, all of it sounded completely fine. But as soon as you start getting into genres where there's a lot of different layers and a lot of different textures and things like that going on, they just tend to get a little bit muddy. They start to get a little bit congested, and the mids just fall flat at that point. And I listen to a lot of metal, I listen to a lot of rock. This isn't an IEM that I would go to for those genres, but if I'm going to listen to anything pretty simple, even with pop and hip hop, I think it sounded great with that pair, but then that kind of goes back to the bass lacking that punch, and it kind of pulls the life out of certain genres like that. So just between the bass and the mids, it's a mixed bag. And I think with the treble, this is also going to be a hit or miss with people, because if you do not like a bright or somewhat harsh treble, this immediately isn't going to be the pair for you, because it leans in that direction. Now, I would have been completely happy with this if they also gave you that punchiness in the bass to kind of counteract with the harsh treble, but they don't. It gives you a good amount of bass, but it's just pushing the treble up so much that, again, in certain genres, it just doesn't work for. And then moving over to the soundstage and the sound imaging, it definitely does not sound like a very open pair of IEMs, but being able to tell where sounds are coming from, this pair still did a really good job with. It just doesn't sound as spaced out and as open, especially compared to a lot of other ones that I've tested. But my overall opinion is, for $100, it is still a very decent pair of IEMs. I may be just being a little too critical because I know that there's better options in this price range. And it really is going to depend on what genres you listen to. If you just mainly listen to easy listening and classical and a lot of things that are more acoustic or vocal driven, I think you're going to be completely happy. And even with pop and hip hop, I think most people are going to be completely happy with those genres, as long as you're not out there wanting that, impact of bass. You're definitely going to hear bass. It does a very good job of picking up sub bass. But if you're not used to hearing bass and you're more used to feeling bass, that is not what this pair of IEMs really does. And again, the treble and the harshness may scare off some people. I am a huge fan of this part of the IEMs. I just wish that I would have gotten a punchier bass to kind of level it off a little bit more. So it's not for bass heads, it's not for purists, it's kind of right there in the middle. And I think at $100 or a little under $100, there's just some better options out there. But guys, that wraps up my video on the Queen of Audio's Barbados Sunrise IEMs. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.